Hello, remote learners. We are on page 104 in our science book. We have just handed out our homework from previous, I think it was Thursday night. So we're getting ready to do comets, asteroids, and meteors. Okay? No videos today other than this one. We've watched those, well, you guys are watching them today. So here we go. All right. Imagine watching a cosmic collision. Okay, that's exactly what happened in July 1994. All right, that was the year before Eugene and Carolyn Shoemaker and David Levy discovered a comet that had previously broken into pieces near Jupiter. Okay, when their orbit passed near Jupiter again, the fragments crashed into Jupiter. Okay, on Earth, many people were fascinated to view these images of the huge explosion. And some of these pieces were actually as large as Earth that was crashing into Jupiter.
Yeah, right.
Okay? As this example shows, the sun, the planet, the moon aren't the only objects in the solar system. Okay, you knew that. There are also many smaller objects moving through the solar system. And these objects are classified as comets, asteroids, or meteoroids. Okay? We're going to talk about the comet first, and you'll see there on page 104 down at the bottom, it shows you a comet actually does have a nucleus, the solid core, okay? We know it's a frozen ball of rock and dust and all that, and it freezes because it goes on its elliptical orbit. It gets really, really far out from the sun, so all that freezes up. And then as it comes back around the sun, that's what the tail and everything is when the sun is causing it to start to melt a little bit. Of course, a lot of these things are, again, huge, so it's not in danger of melting and just disappearing or anything. Okay? There are many, let's see, we talked about that. The comet. One of the most glorious things you can see in the night sky is a comet. Okay? You guys will be older. You got Halley's Comet will be coming by, you're probably up in your 50s by that point in time. But, hey, it's worth seeing. Okay?
Yay!
Now,
Yay!
stop. So what exactly is a comet? You can think of a comet as a dirty snowball,
Or a snowy
about the
airball.
size of a mountain. Yeah, according to the video. About the size of a mountain. That kind of leaves it wide open. I mean, because mountains comes in different sizes also. So comets are loose collections of ice, dust, and small rocky particles whose orbits are usually a very long, narrow ellipse. Okay, so they do the elliptical orbit also.
But it's
Okay,
very
but
stretched
it's very
out.
it's stretched out really, really far. Okay, really, really far. Okay. When a comet gets close enough to the sun, the energy in the sunlight turns the ice into gas, okay, releasing gas and dust. So clouds of gas and dust forms a fuzzy outer layer called a coma, okay? And that you'll see that in down here in this picture also, okay? It has that fuzzy part around it, okay? And then, of course, it also has the nucleus, which is the solid inner core of the comet. And, of course, the brightest part of the comet is the head, which is made up of the nucleus and the coma. Okay, so we usually think of the coma being the head of it, though. The tail of a comet approaches the sun and it heats up. And some of its gas and dust streams outward, forming the tail. Okay? So the name comet means long-haired star in Greek.
That's weird.
Okay? Most comets have two tails. They have the gas and a dust tail. Okay? Both tails usually point away from the sun. In fact, they always point away from the sun. If it is approaching the sun,
It speeds up.
okay, the tail is pointing away from the sun. As it goes around this side, okay, the tail is pointing out that way. And it stays like that all the way around, and as it heads back out into space, the tail is actually leading it at that point in time. It always points away from the sun. Okay? because it's the heat of the sun that is making it
So when
turn
it comes to
turn
Earth-
into a gas and go, okay?
Wait, so when it comes to Earth,
Yes.
And this is a little off topic, but is it possible for like something to go into an orbit around the sun and this planet?
Is it possible to do what now?
For another planet to create and go have its own orbit around the sun?
Yes.
Does the comet speed up when it approaches the sun, or does it always stay the same in the
It stays pretty much the same, because they're booking pretty fast. They're actually coming through.
Yeah, but
Stays
it
pretty fast.
stays at about, it doesn't vary much, does it?
No. Leo, what was your question, sir?
so when it comes, so this is for any rocket, any asteroid, correct?
Any
Right.
comment?
Any comet. Okay, sorry. So
That's okay.
when a comet comes to Earth, would the dust tail thingy would be pointing away from us? So it would be
It's pointing away from the sun.
so it'd be pointing to Earth.
It's pointing away from the sun.
So yes.
It depends on where it's going through the
So like
sky.
if the sun was right here and it was going this way to Earth, the
Then
dust
it would be
in
pointing,
the-
it points,
That's weird.
it points away from the, yeah, the
That
tail
doesn't
always
look-
points
that
away from
doesn't
the sun.
sound right. I don't know why. It just doesn't
So
sound
points away from the sun is a little bit of a broad subject because it depends on what angle you're at.
But it's always pointing away from the sun.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
So
actually, it doesn't matter what angle it's at, it's always pointing away from the sun.
No, I mean, if he was talking about whether it's pointing at the Earth.
Yeah, if you want to break down, is it, where on earth is it, yeah. But
That's
yeah,
what I
it's
meant.
always pointing away, okay?
so it's like this.
You missed this, right? Come on. All right, here we go. A comet's tail can be more than 100 million kilometers. It's pretty big. Okay? It stretches out across most of the sky. The material is stretched out very thinly, however, so there's no real mass to a comet's tail. Okay? When you boil water, Brady, if you had your book out and was paying attention, I bet you could do much better on homework and tests. When you boil water at home, you will see that steam come up off of it as it starts to. Okay, that's turning into a gas. Okay, it's becoming a water vapor. Okay, and it's moving away from the heat. Right? Comet's tail is doing the same thing. It's moving away from the heat, is what it's doing. Okay,
Which would be the sun.
which would be the sun. Exactly.
Wait, is it just frozen water or is it like frozen magma?
It's rock, dust, a lot of stuff,
That's like
but
a lot of stuff
but it
that-
is frozen. They are
Yeah,
frozen.
like I know that. I was just like wondering if it was like frozen water.
It's weird how if a solid rock.
There's no such thing as frozen ice.
Yep.
You know, if you have a solid
Yes,
rock,
there is.
basically-
Yeah, there is.
Stop.
It's called ice.
Guys, stop.
Yeah, if it's frozen, it's called ice, so saying something is frozen ice is redundant.
Yeah, that's what.
Obviously, it's
basically
frozen
saying
or it would be
Little
ice.
comet is.
That's what he's trying to do.
And that's basically saying wet water.
Guys, I'm trying to film a class here. Let's try to stay on topic just a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I realize it's Monday, you didn't, but let's try to stay on topic. All right, most comets are found in one or two distant region of the solar system, the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud. The Kuiper Belt is a donut-shaped region that extends beyond Neptune's orbit, about 100 times Earth's distance from the sun. Okay? In other words, it is the belt that runs between the last terrestrial planet and the first gas giant. So which planets are they between?
And Mars and Jupiter.
Jupiter. Mars and Jupiter.
Dang
Very
it, that's
good.
what I was gonna say.
Okay, very good. The Oort cloud is a spiritual region of comets that surrounds the solar system out to more than 1,000 times the distance between Pluto and the sun. So they are way, way out. That's why they're frozen. They are so far out from the sun. Okay?
Wait, so it's 1,000 times.
Between Pluto and the sun. And Pluto sets out farther than.
Wait, so Oort cloud is between Pluto and,
It's 1,000 times out past Pluto.
it's past Pluto.
Yeah, it's out past,
Can Pluto become a
it's
planet?
out past Pluto.
Can Pluto somehow become a planet?
Pluto will probably never be a planet again.
Yeah, so the Oort cloud is past Pluto 1,000 times different, distance Pluto's away from the sun.
It's way out there. Yeah, that's
So
what it's trying to get across is Oort cloud is way the heck out in the
Way,
universe.
way out.
Way,
Way,
way
way
out.
out.
That's what it's trying to say. Yep, that's what it's saying. Yes.
Well, what would happen if, like, I know it's probably never gonna happen in our lifetime. But
He knows it's never going to happen in our lifetime, but yet he's going to ask.
If someone landed on Pluto,
If someone lands on Pluto
it's not possible.
and they colonize it.
and colonizes
Imagine if,
it,
like, wouldn't they change it because they
Wouldn't
wouldn't
they
want to be
change
living
it?
on a moon? That would just be like.
Oh,
Well,
Titan.
yeah, they would have to.
Saturn's largest moon, Titan, can actually sustain life. So
makes my
Might
head hurt
be able
sometimes.
no, it can't. It has underwater.
Okay, yeah, that's probably not going to happen in our lifetime, so we won't worry about colonizing Pluto. We're still working on trying to send somebody back to the moon and then Mars later on, so we'll worry about Pluto, never. Okay, asteroids. Between 1801 and 1807, astronomers discovered 4 small objects around the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. And they named the object Ceres, Pallas, Juno, and Vesta. Over the next 80 years, they found 300 more of these things. Okay? So these rocky objects are called asteroids. But they were too small and too numerous to be considered full-fledged planets. And most asteroids revolve around the sun between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. Okay? And this region of the solar system is called the asteroid belt. Now, on all the sci-fi movies and all that, it shows the rocks are just like, as close as kids are in a classroom going through this belt. The truth is, they were spread out thousands of miles apart a lot of times, most of the time. But think about how big the universe is and how big this belt is. Okay, so this is a massive belt. So even though it's got millions of asteroids in it, they're still spread out pretty far. Yes, Caleb?
Asteroids, the difference between them isn't asteroids just mainly rocks.
Yeah, it is.
It's not really in the eyes.
Yeah, right, yeah, it's not
Wait, what's
frozen.
the difference between an
It's,
asteroid?
we're going, you know what, if we could get through a section here, we would actually discuss that.
But what's the
We
difference
really
between an
would, if you would save your questions to what we're talking about, not trying to jump ahead. Okay, I love your enthusiasm, but wow, something that should have taken us 10 minutes, we've been working on for 20, and we're about halfway through. Yes, why not? Yes.
What's the difference between a meteoroid and a
We want to talk about that. We really honest to goodness are. We're going to get to that, I promise you. Okay, I promise you. Okay.
circling in
Now, astronomers have discovered more than 100,000 asteroids, and they are constantly finding more. Most asteroids are small, less than a kilometer in diameter. Only Ceres, Pallas, Vesta, and Hygiene is more than 300 kilometers across. 300 kilometers across. That's pretty big. The largest asteroid, Ceres, was recently classified as a dwarf planet. Okay, so it's actually a dwarf planet now. At one time, scientists thought the asteroids were the remains of a shattered planet. However, the combined mass of all these asteroids are too small to support this idea. So now they have hypothesized that the asteroids are leftover pieces of an early solar system that never came together to form a planet. You ever just think sometimes God is sitting up there just smiling down because he puts all these things out there in space for
He's
man to
just laughing like
discover,
that,
and then he just sits there and he smiles if we come up with all these theories on how they got there.
He's like,
You got to figure he does that just to get a good laugh sometimes.
Yeah, that's
Okay. Some asteroids have a very elliptical orbit that brings them closer to the sun than the Earth's orbit. Someday, one of these asteroids could very well hit Earth. One or more large asteroids did hit Earth about 65 million years ago. Brady, put your mask up, son. Okay. Filling the atmosphere with dust and smoke and blocking out sunlight around the world. This has been the theory as what happened to the dinosaurs
Yeah.
forever and ever. Because it creates this giant dust storm, it blocks out the sun, nothing can grow, the earth becomes really cold, and all the dinosaurs dies
Well,
off.
it must.
Okay,
Well, there must be
The Ice Age started.
it was. Okay, all right. But did you know the Bible talks about giant beasts with the tail the size of tree trunks? So,
I mean,
I'm just saying, okay? I'm just saying. I'm not saying they were dinosaurs, I'm just saying there was obviously some big animals roaming around. Okay, that's all I'm saying. All right, it's the perfect night for stargazing. Talking about meteors now. Dark and clear. Suddenly a streak of light flashes across the sky. For an hour or so, you see a streak at least once a minute. You are watching a meteor shower. Meteor showers happen regularly, several times a year. Okay, late August is usually a pretty good time, and fall, the fall is usually a pretty decent time to see. You need to be away from city lights, though. Unfortunately, artificial lights makes it harder to see them sometimes. But even when there is no meteor shower, you can often see meteors if you are far from the city lights and the sky is not cloudy. On average, a meteor streaks overhead about every 10 minutes. So you can see it if you happen to be looking in the right direction at the time. Masked up. Okay? A meteoroid is a chunk of rock or dust in space. Meteoroids come from comets or asteroids. Some meteoroids formed when an asteroid collides in space. Others formed when a comet breaks up and creates a cloud of dust that continues to move through the solar system. When Earth passes through one of these dust clouds, bits of dust enters the Earth's atmosphere. Okay? When a meteoroid enters Earth's atmosphere, friction with the air creates heat and produces a streak of light in the sky. Okay, it's burning up basically. Okay, and that's a meteor. Okay, if a meteoroid is large enough, it may not burn up completely. And if that's the case, as it comes through the Earth's atmosphere, if it doesn't burn up, it will hit the Earth's surface somewhere. Okay, those are called meteorites. Okay. And the craters on the moon was actually formed by meteoroids, not meteorites, because it didn't come through the Earth's atmosphere.
Then what's an asteroid?
Okay?
wait, what's the difference between a meteor and a meteoroid?
That's what it just tells you. It tells you right there. Okay? It tells you right there. A meteoroid is a chunk of rock or dust in space. They come from comets or asteroids. A meteorite is one that comes through the surface and hits the Earth. Okay? And the meteor is the one that is out there in the belt, circling all around.
Oh, so a meteoroid is when it comes through the Earth's atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And we're-
That was entertaining, wasn't it?